Okay, hello everyone. So I'm back with question 5 for the AZ105 4 exam. Okay, what is this question? You are working as a cloud engineer in an IT startup called ABC Ltd. To host an e-commerce site, you have been provided 3 virtual machines that are part of an availability set. Due to increase in traffic for the Black Friday sale, the business program manager has asked you to resize one of the VMs from 4 vCPU to 16 vCPU. You go to the portal to perform this action asap. You try to resize one of the VMs from the portal, but the operation fails and you get an allocation failure message. Black Friday sale is happening and traffic is increasing every minute, so this needs to be performed asap. What step or action should you take to ensure that the VM can be upgraded quickly? So I have 3 virtual machines, part of an availability set. Okay, I need to resize one of the VMs from 4 vCPU to 16 vCPU. When I tried to resize, the operation failed. Okay, so what are the options? Number 1, you should stop only one of the VMs. You should stop 2 of the 3 VMs. You should stop all 3 VMs. You should remove the necessary VM from the availability set. This action in itself is not possible. A VM in an availability set cannot be upgraded. You need to change the property of the availability set from static to dynamic before performing this change. Okay. To answer this question, there is no other way than to know the concept behind the question, basically behind the Azure Compute Service. Okay. So what we have to understand is that, first of all, what is an availability set? An availability set can host one or more VMs and ensure that those VMs can be redundant, meaning they will use different racks and stuff like that, so that, for example, the fault domain and the update domain are different for the VMs which are hosted in an availability set. So if I have, say, 3 VMs in an availability set, if for some reason I need to do a planned maintenance, all the VMs will not be updated at the same time, causing outage. So maybe VM1 will be updated while VM2 and VM3 is okay. Then once VM1 is done, then VM2 will be updated. Microsoft will take care of this in the backend. Okay, so this is why people use availability set to increase the redundancy and high availability. But there is something that you need to understand when you are resizing a VM, and this is very important here. And for that, I will go to this blog, which is a old blog in 2016, but the concept is still the same. Okay, so you first need to understand something. When considering the ability to resize virtual machines, there are 3 key concepts that will impact how simple it is to change the size of your VM. The region in which your VM is deployed. Different VM sizes require different physical hardware. In some instances, an Azure region may not contain the hardware which is required to support the desired VM size. So not all VM sizes are present in all regions, because at the end of the day, VM is based on a physical hardware, and the physical hardware might not be there in that region. Second is, what is the physical hardware that is currently hosting your VM? If the physical hardware which is currently running your VM also supports your desired new size, it is very easy to change the VM size through a simple size change operation which results in a VM reboot. So only reboot, you don't even need to stop the VM, if provided the new size or the new VM family or the VM size that you want to go is supported by the physical hardware. So every VM has a physical hardware. A physical hardware supports 10 different types of VMs. So if your existing VM and your new VM are both new VM type or size are both supported by the same physical hardware, then you are okay. You can just reboot. Okay. And obviously the deployment model type used for the VMs is an old one. Nowadays everybody uses the resource manager model. Okay. One another very important thing is that, see, if the VM size that you desire for use is not available in your current region, options are to either wait for the size to become available or in the region to move, to wait for the size to become available in the region or move the VM to some other region. So this is very important. Okay, there is no other way basically, because see, if the region does not have that physical hardware, it is not possible. No, there is no kind of wizard you can do at the portal level or PowerShell level or cloud architecture level to allow this. At the end of that, the physical hardware needs to be there, on top of which your hypervisor will make the VMs, right? So in this case, we have actually faced this kind of issues while my day-to-day work, And in that case, sometimes what happens, you can raise a ticket to Microsoft Azure and they will try to make that system available, or you have to wait, or you have to choose the region appropriately. Okay, so now this is very important. Resize to a size which is available in current hardware cluster. So when a VM is running, it is actually deployed on a physical hardware. The physical servers in Azure regions are grouped together in clusters of common physical hardware. A running VM can easily be resized to any VM size supported by the current cluster of hardware which is supporting the VM. You can determine which VM sizes are supported by any of the following methods. Anyways, that is separate. So what you need to understand, that whatever VM size is supported, you can just select that size if it is supported by the physical hardware, and then you can directly resize it. As you can see, you can resize from Azure portal, and you will see only the available VM sizes to which the VM can be resized are available. Okay, and the other ones are not shown. This is okay. This is something we do. Resize to a size not available in current hardware cluster. If the desired new VM size is supported on the current hardware cluster hosting the VM, then the resize operation is a simple reboot operation. However, if the current hardware hosting your VM does not support the requested new VM size, then the operation of resizing the VM is a bit more difficult. In that case, resizing the VM basically requires the VM to be moved to a different hardware cluster. And this is dependent on the deployment model that was used to deploy the VM. Okay. Another very important thing is that all VMs in an availability set are always deployed on the same hardware cluster. That means in some cases, multiple VMs must be resized together. So if the resource manager deployment model was used, then a VM can be resized if the VM or any other VM in the same availability set are in a stopped or deallocated state. This is very important to understand. Okay. This is also mentioned here. So if your VM is deployed using ARM deployment model, which is the most popular one now, you need to change the size to a size which requires a different hardware. Then you can resize the VM by you have to first stop the VM, then you need to select the new VM size and then restart the VM. But if the VM you wish to resize is part of an availability set, then you must first stop all the VMs in the availability set before changing the size of any VM in the availability set. Why? The reason all VMs in the availability set must be stopped before performing the resize operation to a size that requires different hardware is that all running VMs in the availability set must be using the same physical hardware cluster. So one availability set, how many number of VMs will use always the same physical hardware cluster. Therefore, if a change of physical hardware cluster is required to change the VM size, then all VMs must be first stopped and then restarted one by one to a different physical hardware cluster. To move to a new physical hardware cluster may also require changing the size of other VMs in the availability set, as the previous VM size may not be supported in the new physical hardware cluster. Okay, so basically the idea is very simple. Even if I need to resize only one VM, if the resize operation is a stop and start operation, meaning the physical hardware on top of which the VM is present does not support the new size, then what I need to do, I need to stop my VM, then I need to select the new size and then restart my VM. So that basically the VM is moved to a new separate physical hardware cluster. But since all the VMs in the same availability set need to be in the same physical hardware cluster, so all VMs needs to be stopped. All of them will be moved to the new physical hardware cluster and then they will be again restarted. Okay, so this concept is very important to understand for answering this question. This is one of those questions where if you don't understand the concept, you cannot answer from logic as such. So as you can see, answer C, you should stop all the 3 VMs, and this is the reference. Thank you everyone. I will come back with more questions. Thank you.